She literally just told us her entire intention and literally just exonerated herself in like 15 seconds. This could have all been fucking discussed a long time ago. We didn't even have to get here. Like, you could have just asked her, yo, why do you have like dreads? Literally, like, just 1 minute of conversation. But what I want to talk about is a debacle here with a very special VTuber and the sparks of a big controversy, chat. So let's go take a look at what is going on with this VTuber here. And they were called out for this, but this is Bananajuju. And as you might know here, a Bananajuju, from what my research, she's been around for a bit, chat, and her design is super cute. I love it. Very like a Tarzan-esque. I think she's supposed to be like a monkey VTuber. Her design is super cute. She's so, yeah, I went by her stream earlier today. So before we get into the debacle, let me ask you really quickly, chat, for your opinion, you think there was anything wrong with her model? Don't see anything wrong, okay? I got you, chat. Well, there was some controversy around this VTuber. I'm gonna tell you what's going on. Coming here from Misty Blushes. I'm the only one uncomfortable with a white model rocking dreads. So, chat, this is where we get into the debacle. Well, I'm gonna tell you my opinion on this, chat. I'm pretty sure you're actually the only one uncomfortable with this. I'm not aware that anybody owns a hairstyle, right? I don't think that's a thing, right? Like, I think the Afrocentric hair might be pushing a boundary. I'm not sure of the full intent. I didn't feel like for this could be Twitter pushing an agenda for now. Like, I'm gonna be real. Maybe Afrocentric is one. That's fair. And maybe every conversation about each one is more detailed. But I feel like dreads are totally okay, right? Like, Vikings have been doing dreads for a long time, right? Like, I feel like every race at some point has been proven to do dreads or braids or any of that kind of stuff, right? Like, yeah, Vikings, Aztecs, Egyptians, like, it's been tied to every culture as far as I know. But somebody was saying here, of course, yeah, that I'm the only one comfortable with the white model rocking dreads. Well, let's go take a look, guys, at how this was responded to. Like, the fact they have a mixer straight here, too, full-on braid right next to Forcey Lock. Look, I'm gonna be real. When I saw this, I thought this was literally just, like, almost supposed to be, like, Tarzan and Jane kind of look. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with it, you know? Rev says, no, it's just you. Get real problems. Dory says, yeah, it's just you. Many alternative boys and girls have had whole half had dreadlocks when the emo scenes was alive. After in my class, I knew 5 others in the same school. It was completely normal, right? And I think it is, everything depends on intent, right? But guys, I do not think there was any malicious intent here, you know? It's so weird that everybody in the comments seem to have no issue with this. Like, you're like the only one I've seen. Are insignificance of Viking braids. Braids, not dreads, completely different things. I'm pretty sure that dreads have been in every type of culture, but maybe I need to be more educated on that. The anti-racist basically saying stick to your own and perpetuating cultural segregation. Well, I never. Yeah, see, like, this is a consideration. You're so right. We should ban dark-skinned models from using straight hair, twin tails, or any other color hair than brown. Right, like, definitely kind of like the opposite side of that. You're kind of playing devil's advocate right there. So let's go take a look at some of the responses to this debacle, what everybody was saying about it. Of course, we have anti-ism saying, I'm the only one who doesn't see the problems with this VTuber model. I think it looks really cool. I think it's perfectly fine, you know? Like I feel like this is a virtue signal over nothing, right? Like, just, I don't know, stir up something. Very, very normal Twitter behavior, right? The Geo goes on to say this tweet was the ultimate self-report. If you have a problem with this VTuber's hairstyle, because you don't think their color skin reflects their hairstyle, it says more about you than it does about them. People can choose to have their hair however they want, regardless of the color of their skin. I think that's fair. Intention is so important, right? And I don't think like there is any negative intention from this VTuber here. It's one of those anti-something you become. You become it. I've seen it a lot with ableism over the years, sure. Let's go also get checking here with Volparia, who also has to say, I don't get the discourse over this design. It's a white skin model with dreads, so we've all seen Tarzan, a white guy with dreads. And nobody made it an issue. I saw this model and thought Tarzan. Me too. Tarzan and Jane. It's a cute design, but what's the problem? Very much agree. Hey everybody, just a quick reminder. If you've been enjoying this video, please don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. It helps me a ton. Okay, back to the video. Asuika also goes on. Asuika was the one that made the really big customizable model. Asuika saying, I didn't even think about this. So when I made a POC hairstyles for the customizable model, I obviously cannot control who's going to use these hairstyles. If white VTubers use those hairstyles, is it going to be an issue? I'm worried it's going to cause backlash. I feel like I'm about to get into a lose-lose. And I feel like, again, we just go back to what Geo said. I definitely think Geo just kind of, really hit it nail on the head, right? And again, just intention is so important in this conversation. And I don't think like there was any negative intention at all, right? Lady Lark saying there's really nothing wrong with the picture. There's nothing wrong with a white person wearing dreads. Or deciding to get their hair braided if they want to. There's no need to gatekeep here or make issues out of thin air. It's not that deep. I think this is it. I think this is it right here, chat. To me, this is this is the best summary quote I think I've seen of all this. I agree with this 100%. And finally, we do have somebody on the opposite side of the argument here coming from Mau being genuinely asking, not kind of racist, at the very least, rude to call a hairstyle. And many black people choose to style their hair in lazy and unbrushed. So, hey, so I love your hair. People are getting jealous over it now. I don't know why, but they are jealous. You forget to brush and too lazy to care. I feel like we're just trying to read into everything like way too much. You know what I mean? Like, I don't even think they're like, that's not even what they're trying to say. You know what I mean? Like, it really feels like, why are we continuing to like pull up all of these issues? I feel like, again, like, it's just, we're trying to find an issue, right? It's not that deep. You know, like here, like Atira said, like, it's not that deep. That's what she was insinuating. I think you know that too. Again, I really feel like this design is so cute. There wasn't any negative intention behind it, which is always something we have to consider when we're doing something like this, right? What is their intention behind any of this, right? This person had been around for what, almost a year? I don't see any issue. Okay, it's made to be like, you know, Jungle Tarzan-esque. Her name is Bananajuju. She's a monkey VTuber, right? So, like, I think it's a blown out of proportion from the original OP here. Like, I think it's okay to have dreads, whatever skin color that you have. I think the Geo is the one, you know, really hits the nail on the head here. See, also, this other person here, hold on, who was it? Yeah, Lady Lurk, there's really nothing wrong with the picture. There's nothing wrong with a white person wearing dreads, or deciding to get their hair braided if they want to. Don't need to gatekeep here or make issues out of thin air. It's not that deep. Again, I feel like this was just blown out of proportion, and like I showed you with the comments here, I think a lot of people just kind of looked at this and said, yeah, you know, I think that anybody should be allowed to. But I would love to hear from all of you in chat right now. What is your opinion on this? Do you think that, you know, it's okay? Do you think it's wrong? I also want to hear the other side of it, which is kind of why I wanted to show Mau's here. But again, I think we're just reading too deep into it, right? Like, if you're a jungle VTuber, right? Like, when you forget to brush and too lazy to care, like, yeah, I think it's just very much like, it's just going with a brand. I mean, one of the oldest ways to have dreads is to essentially just neglect and wait, and it's commonly referred to as neglect method. So her one comment isn't really wrong either, sure. I don't know about like dreads, like I don't know how to have dreads. So with that extra context, that could be there. And again, it's just about intention, like what is the intention of this post, right? I think it's fine, no problem here at all. Problem with nothing better to do, looking for something to be offended about. People like that just want to stick to themselves in whatever situation they can. Get offended at people at Nothing Burger. Issues to make themselves feel so righteous and morally superior. Yeah, that's very much like the Twitter thing, right? It's fine, it's just here. You know, at the end of the day, I think it's important to consider how everybody feels in a situation, right? Like, regardless of what it is. You know, so I do want to look at all the sides of it. I think that is important, but at the end of the day, like, I think my just summary of this is exactly what this OP said back here. I think this is the most accurate and closest to my opinion. I know Nothing Burger is by rate as a net negative. I mean, I do think it's important to be thoughtful of other people, right? And it's important to be thoughtful of other people's cultures. It's important to be thoughtful of how other people feel about something and the perception that you can create off of something, right? It's definitely a tricky topic for sure, right? And that's why I want to talk about it. So I don't think there's ill intent. And I think that's the biggest thing that I take away from this. There's no ill intent and I don't find a problem with it. At the end of the day, my opinion is I don't really think she's doing anything wrong. So certainly go check her out. Her name is Bananajuju. I like her model. It's super cute. I very much like the, you know, Tarzan kind of feel to it. So very cute. Just kind of normal Twitter discourse for me. Just kind of a, I don't know, very strange, like virtue signaling, but yeah, exactly. Like, it's just here. Like, I don't know. I think there's a lot more important things we could be discussing and fighting about. Besides, if that is cultural appropriation, we should stop making and selling all sorts of foods from around the world. Sure. Again, I think it's like, let's look here. Let's look here. Adoption or borrowing of elements from the one culture by members of another culture, often without understanding or respecting the original cultural significance. So I feel like this part right here where it says without understanding or respecting the original cultural significance, so it can be seen as disrespectful and harmful. I don't feel like they are even close to that territory, you know what I mean? So I don't think that we can be like, oh, they're culturally appropriating. Well, thank you guys for sharing your opinions. I appreciate all of you. You know, this is definitely kind of a heavier topic, a little bit more tricky to talk about. So really appreciate you all weighing in on it, and we'll continue to have a conversation around it, chat. It's important And I think we also need to call out, maybe some of the dialogue that's happening that's not really like the best or really the looking for a positive discussion, right? And that's what we want out of this. We want to have a positive discussion, and that's it. Besides, that type of hairstyle doesn't exist in just African American culture. Multiple cultures have similar ones, right? Exactly. Again, like I thought there was like Vikings used to use very similar hairstyles before, but I would need to do my research on that. To be honest, I'll be fair with you. I would need to dive into that a little bit more on my end. So, I think where we left our last conversation off chat, we were talking about how different cultures utilize dreads. I kind of read up on a few things, and I want to correct some stuff and point out something I think is very important about this. So, one thing that I've seen that people kind of fail to acknowledge is a lot of people are talking about like cultures that are really, really old, right? They're like old Viking cultures or stuff like that, right? I think that having dreads is more relevant to modern day African American culture than it is comparatively to a really, really old culture. Does that make sense? So, like, let me pull this up. Let's take a look here. So this is a person here. Their name is Chevelle Price. They're talking about the muddy ownership of dreadlocks. So let's take a look. So what they had to say about it. And again, I want to talk about this because I feel like ultimately what is important here is what was Bananajuju's intention? Were they trying to culturally appropriate? Were they trying to, just play a theme? What were they doing, right, chat? So let's go take a look here. This poster here says back in September of 2019, I decided to grow dreadlocks, taking the neutral fraud worn since I was a teenager, twisting the hair into coils. In due time will drape over my shoulders like furry tendrils. As a black man in America, my people have a history of slavery, pain, oppression, and overcoming that only dreadlocks could outwardly express. I felt reborn, but to my non-black friends, I just looked like a SoundCloud rapper. To them, it was a bold fashion choice. To me, it was my personal liberation. Through history, black people have been criticized for our curly, unruly, difficult hair, and Coke's industry need to be more, or appear more assimilated in uniform. My claim on dreadlocks was inspired by the free-thinking, outcast attitude of the Rastafarians in the modern movement to refute the American view of natural black hair as difficult and unmanageable rather than innately beautiful. And so I feel like this is kind of important to keep in mind that this was more of a modern movement, and I think it's more relevant to, like Ia says here, I think in the recent history, blacks have been mainly associated, attributed to black culture, and of course with the Rastafari movement, then it would be more closely associated to Viking or kind of an older culture. So again, this was very educational for me reading through it, kind of put that in perspective. That kind of helped me because I want to understand all the sides of this, right, chat? But again, I always want to go back to, what is this person's intention, right, chat? What the point I want to make is like saying that Shiva had dreads is a lot less relevant because that's so old, right? Like, dreadlocks or the Rastafari movement in the refuting American view of natural black hair is difficult and unmanageable is more relevant now than that. Does that make sense? Totally, chat. As you can see, this absolutely blew up in a really, really big way, right? And that's why I want to share this with you because we do need to understand the history. We need to understand everything about it, right, chat? How can you come to a full conclusion about this unless you understand everything, right? So we have to ask, what was Juju's intention with this? Well, chat, let's go take a look at what happened since we last talked about it. I showed you guys a bunch of screenshots where people were like angry about it. Some people were very supportive. But I think one thing that I'm going to point out later here is kind of echoing what Fox Destiny said. A lot of people really are dismissive to POC VTubers, and it's really messed up. I think POC VTubers get the short end of the stick a lot of the time, and that's really not fair, And I think it's a very fair statement to say. So, ultimately, Bananajuju says when some people try to bully you, it has the opposite effect. Never mind why the streams I have effects that seem to happen. So many of you standing up for me. So much love. Thank you all from the bottom of my heart for following me. This sure is bananas. So, then we gotta say a lot of people did try to go after Juju about her hair, right? But ultimately, it very much backfired. She got a ton of support. She got like almost 15,000 followers in a day or something. It was crazy. So again, I'm gonna give you the story and we will talk about it because there's a lot of details that I think are very, very relevant. So ultimately, Asmongold ended up talking about this, chat. This got really, really big. Asmongold did decide to cover it as well. So let's go take a look at what Asmon said. Ultimately, Bananajuju as well saying, it's exactly why I don't explain or excuse myself towards racists or taking it in front of him. Live it 2025. Enjoy life and be a free spirit. So let's see what Asmon had to say.
So, am I the only one that's uncomfortable with a white model rocking dreads? Yeah, This is a Karen in training right here complaining about this girl's model.
Very, very quick pause. What you're gonna see here, a lot of people are very upset that Juju ended up putting about this post and showing off, Asmongold put this. So you're gonna see a lot of people saying, this is no flex you this man is literally the worst. Some people are saying, based, having Asmongold back you up isn't a high position you think it is. So I think that we need to remember that whether you like Asmongold or not, you can like him, you can love him, you can hate him, whatever, right? I don't understand why we're attacking the person and not the argument. You know what I mean? Like, liking or not liking Asmongold is literally irrelevant, right? Like, let's argue with the actual debate, not go after the person. You know what I mean? I just want to say that really quick because I saw a lot of people like, oh, well, Asmongold sides with you. Like, you're a grifter. Like, I mean, Asmongold isn't always right. Nobody's always right. I think that you have to have nuance about this whole situation with him involving himself. But anyway, let's continue with what he had to say.
Don't ever delete this. It's great. Hi, say it back. And greetings. Let me see what this post is here and how many people are talking about it. Yeah, this has 3,000 likes. Is it just me? Yes, it's just you. Like the fact that they have it mixed with straight hair too. This is full-on 3A braid next to...
It doesn't invalidate the argument just because it's Asmongold, because, like, Asmongold is right sometimes. I mean, you may not like that, but he is right sometimes. He's also wrong sometimes. Like, I don't like attacking the person. I like attacking the argument or overcoming the argument, right? Like, why are you going after him about it? It's his opinion. That's it. So, like, literally people going after her for showing what Asmon said is really fucking stupid.
4C lock? What the hell are you talking about? She got ratioed anyway? Good.
Yeah, exactly, Snug. Like,
by the way,
just because they don't have the best reputation doesn't mean they can be right.
They are the worst. Oh my God. I can't believe it. Where are they coming from? What is she saying? She's saying that, and I maybe I'm implying this because I look at her profile picture, right? She's assuming that having braids is somehow a form of racial cultural appropriation. And
that's the main argument, right, chat? Like, is it cultural appropriation? That's the question. And so that's why I wanted to share with you what I shared with you a little bit earlier, right, chat? How it's a little bit more relevant to more modern day stuff than it would be more relevant to a really, really old culture. But understanding and getting that information, I think is important because now you're more educated in making a decision, right? You have to have the information before you can ultimately decide something.
That this girl is using the braids while having a white avatar. That's what I'm assuming she's trying to bring up and talk about. And Vikings wore braids. It doesn't matter what the logic.
Yeah, it's like the space puns thing all over again. I will tell you my opinion. Again, I want to give you all the information before I start diving into my thoughts.
You're trying to argue with her logically. This is not a logical person. The correct answer is shut the fuck up. That's it. That's the answer. You don't explain it. You don't.
I mean, I disagree, but
go and be like, oh, well, this is why you're wrong. It's just shut the fuck up.
I think that we need to remind ourselves, chat, that you are never going to have a fruitful discussion on Twitter. It's never going to happen. As much as you might want it to happen, it's never, ever going to happen, right? So, I mean, I don't really agree with what he said, like telling somebody that, but I'm just not that kind of person. Like, I'm not that mean, but I just move on, like, you don't have to say that to somebody. Anyway, let's continue.
It's ridiculous because explaining it to them is capitulating to a Karen. But yeah, anyway, it's a little bit different. And they're called Dutch locks for a reason. Well, I don't know if they are or not. Who cares? Who cares why? Yeah, uncomfortable with a white model rocking dreads. It's crazy to just broadcast your racism like this. It really is. Like, because you would assume that people like this, like, because I thought, I mean, personally, I thought racism was bad.
When I first looked at this, right, like, I just thought, dreadlocks are like a hairstyle, like, they're just a cool hairstyle, which they do have a little bit of symbolism to them, but to go with your point as well, like, they are still just a hairstyle, right? Like, I think, again, it boils down to intention. And the great thing is Bananajuju actually told us her intention, but we're going to get to that.
I thought we kind of figured, like, whenever I went to school, they would tell us a lot that, like, well, not really, actually. Like, we didn't learn anything. But, like, we found
it kind of looks like mashed potatoes.
Like, slavery was kind of a bad thing. Discrimination, segregation was bad. Did you guys learn the same thing, right? Yeah, you did. And so now we have people that are uncomfortable around different races for just these arbitrary reasons.
It's funny you bring up an afro because, like, didn't, like, Bob Ross, like, have an afro? Like, I don't know if that was, like, a problem. I don't want to, like, go off on a tangent in a different direction, right? You know what I mean? But I guess there's, like, instances where, like, I grew up in high school and I had friends that had dreadlocks, they were white. and it wasn't like an issue, that doesn't mean that it ultimately isn't a giant issue, right? But that's just like an example of like something I had like that's at least my perception. Like to me, I just think it's just a hairstyle, right? But let's continue because there's a lot of information, a lot to dissect in this particular conversation.
Well, public school system. Yeah, I guess so.
Because I want to show you both sides, but I want to be respectful. But also at the same time, like I want to show you how Juju treated the conversation,
Some of the
which I think
comments
was
here.
great.
It's so weird that everyone in her comments seems to have no issue with this. Yeah, because you're just stupid. You care about things that don't matter. You have a worldview that's completely warped. Nobody likes you. You probably don't even like yourself. And you're going around trying to tone and tell everybody else how to act. Who the fuck are you? You're nobody. You're nothing. What are you going
People unfortunately have this guise of they're on the internet, right? So they can say whatever they want. They have a mask to hide behind, right? But there's no consequences. And that way people say these like really deep, intrusive thoughts that maybe they should keep to themselves, you know? Or do people also do dreadlocks? Sure.
Going around telling everybody else what to do for? Keep it to your fucking self.
It's been a long time since I watched an Asmon stream.
Police other people. Worry about your own life. I am so fucking fed up with these busybody Karens that try to go around and run everybody's life. They try to go and tell everybody, you need to do this, you need to do that.
Which, for Twitter is pretty normal. You know what I mean? Like, that is pretty normal for Twitter.
This is exhausting. It's exhausting. Get the fuck out of here. Who do you think you are? You're nobody. You're nothing. What are you telling people what to do for? Yeah, and this. What is this?
Well, like, when I looked at this situation, my first question that I asked myself was, okay, I want to understand, but also, what was her intention? And I never saw anybody ask that question. And nobody reached out to her. You know what I mean? Like, nobody reached out to her. Nobody asked her questions. And that kind of blew my mind because I'm like, this could all have been solved if we just asked her what her life was like. Why did she choose this? Nobody asked her that. You know what I mean? So, like, and then that was the first thing I did after stream. I, like, you know, we rated her and I talked to her because it's important to know. Nobody wanted to do that.
Do you have a melanin be gone switch?
People just want the clout. They don't want to talk to people. They don't want to actually resolve an issue. They just want the clout.
Be gone switch. What the fuck does that mean? Braids, not dreads. Completely different things? Nobody gives a fuck. Let's see here, right? Yeah. No, it's just you.
You're right, exactly. Asking questions takes too much effort.
I've probably seen 50 people with white dreadlocks in my life. It's pretty common. It doesn't matter whether it's common or not. This is just a dumb person on the internet trying to tell other people how to act. It's annoying. And that's
it is. It's a very knee-jerk reaction instead of like kind of considering what's actually going on.
You're attempting to race lock simple things like hairstyles. That's kind of racist. Yeah, I know. I just can't believe this person. You're so right, sis. We should ban dark-skinned models from using straight hair, twin tails, or any other hair color besides black and brown, too. We wouldn't want any cultural appropriation. Yeah, exactly. It's just...
I think there is an argument to be said on the other side. This is probably a really bad example, but I did see an argument about this. Somebody was like, oh, well, I guess none of us can VTube because it came from Japan. You know what I mean? Like, that's a horrible argument, but nonetheless, I saw that and I'm like, well, fair enough, devil's advocate, you know? So...
It's these people are so reductive. And also, here's a really important thing, is that these people view their own mental inability to cope with any degree of friction in their life and something that even makes them slightly uncomfortable as a problem that needs to be solved by other people. And I think that's really the main issue that these people have, is that they care about doing
what's up,
this,
Smith? How are you?
And they don't like something, and because they don't like it, they put the imposition on somebody else to solve their problem. That's the problem. And so anyway, this...
I feel like a lot of people do that anyway, but...
issue. It's
continue.
Annoying. And I am so tired of people doing this. The VTuber's a monkey. It's not even a human avatar. Why are they getting mad? Because they're stupid. That's why.
VTubing wasn't originally meant, chat, to play a fantasy, a fantastical role, right? Like, that's always been it. So that was kind of another question I had, because I'm like, if this is something where you're playing a role, right? You're being something else. It's becoming like too worldly, you know what I mean? So to me, anyway, asmongold, of course, ended up talking about this. And I want to show you a really extreme example of how people were reacting to asmongold talking about this. Was this person right here. Hey guys, I'm right. Agrees with me. Bro, just because you don't like asmongold does not mean that his arguments are invalid. You know what I mean? Like, he's not always right, but he's not always wrong either. You know, like, this is an insane fucking argument to say to somebody. Like, what? That's literally insane. Why would you type this out? I'm like, you know what? This is good. This is good. Let me just click enter. Yeah, on my keyboard. Like, What the ultimately, chat, Juju did respond to this. And I want to look at this video because I feel like this is really, really great in how she described what happened. She talks about her intention, what was going on with it. But let's go take a look at what Juju had to say about it.
I caused a bit of a ruckus on Twitter. I went from being a
his wording is very harsh.
To apparently now a lot of people are talking about about little me, mainly my Vtuber who has dreadlocks, which I also happen to have in real life. I wanted to make a short video about what's been going on and yeah, my weekend on.
You heard from what Juju said. She actually said that she has dreadlocks IRL. So she at least understands what it's like to have dreadlocks. Like, she has dreadlocks IRL, you put them on her model. I feel like that is such an important note that she has them IRL. She understands what it's like to have them. I don't see anybody talking about this. Why has nobody talked about this? The fact that she has dreadlocks IRL. Crazy to me.
On the Twitter. So a little bit about me, like I mentioned before, I have dreadlocks in real life. So when I was a little kid, my mama tried to brush them out. I have curly frizzy hair and they often tangled up, and mama brute forced with a comb and trying to untangle it. So once I got a bit older, I actually decided to not brush them anymore and let nature take its course. See, I am lazy, but that doesn't mean that I'm calling dreadlocks a lazy hairstyle, and I didn't mean to insult anyone else for wearing them. But for me,
she literally just told us her entire intention and literally just exonerated herself in like 15 seconds. This could have all been fucking discussed a long time ago. We didn't even have to get here. Like, you could have just asked her, yo, why do you have like dreads? Literally, like, just 1 minute of conversation. You know what I mean? Like, the thing is, though, this blew up in such a huge way. She probably is going to be averaging higher than I am in viewership now. And honestly, there's nothing wrong with that. And really, she earned it. There's nothing wrong with that. But the thing is, chat, why did we not take the time to understand her and ask questions instead of jumping immediately to this fucking thing? Why did we jump to that? It makes no sense to me. Literally what I did. After stream, I messaged her. That's all it took. That's all it took, chat. It's so insane to me that we had to treat this situation so negatively towards her and all this hate towards her when she really actually just like, all you had to do was just ask her. She has a history of dreadlocks herself, right? She has a history of understanding and respecting what they are. So like, for you to just knee-jerk react, go after her is crazy to me. It's actually crazy to me. Which again, I know that there is a bit of a cultural tie to it, but I mean, literally, like, she explains why she has dreads. Like, I don't get all these people hating on her. It feels insane to me. But honestly, like, this really, like, it was like Uno reverse card, because she's really become so big off of this whole like debacle.
I started to tangle up because I stopped brushing it. I've got frizzy curly hair, and yeah, I know, it's so dreadful. How dare I? Well, a little bit about me. I am not your average 20-odd
She's very, very sweet.
who breaks apart just because mentally ill people are writing things about me on the internet. What I'm trying to say is I am friends with people from all cultured backgrounds and nations. I have never in my life been pointed at, and people have never come up to me and said, oh, look, a white girl with dreadlocks. Never. I guess it just happens here on Twitter.
It just happens here on Twitter. That's pretty much exactly how it feels. You know, like, he's absolutely right. Like, I feel like if we separate IRL and like what's happening on the internet, literally she's right. Like, it does not feel like IRL this has ever been a problem, you know? A lot of people talk about how cultures are constantly like, you know, shared amongst each other, right? You know, I'm not like an expert on cultural studies or anything, right? But like, you know, this person's like, I don't get the whole cultural excuse. Who cares? Cultures have been shared and taken all the time. Culture is meant to be appreciated and shared, not get kept forced on only specific people or forcibly changed for problematic reasons. I mean, like, I feel like this is a pretty fair take, you know? I really do feel like this is pretty much a pretty fair take. But ultimately, like, here's what I want to talk about. Dreadlocks may be more closely associated with African American culture and the Rastafarian movement as a way to kind of stand up, right? But it's not like she is doing anything to disrespect or misunderstand anybody. Let's go look at the definition for cultural appropriation. The unacknowledged or inappropriate adoption of the customs, practices, ideas, or aesthetics of one group of by members of another, typically a dominant group, often without understanding or respect for the original culture. Literally what she's saying, like, she clearly has an understanding of what they are, what they mean, and she's okay. She understands, you know what I mean? It's not to be mean, it's not to be disrespectful. She's literally like, I'm a world traveler, like, you know, this is just how I wanted to grow my hair, like IRL, never a problem, right? I do not think through her intention of all of this that she is culturally appropriating. I really don't. Looking at her intention, what she just said in this video, to me, clears her of pretty much any allegation. Like, I really do think that she's completely innocent, chat. I want to look at the other side of the argument a little bit. Also, like, how can you look at what she's saying and the way that she's treating it very kindly, very maturely? How can you look at that and be like, you know what, she's purposefully trying to appropriate a culture? You know what I mean? Like, it feels very, very overblown. She's appreciating it, not appropriating it.
It is a design choice. I have had different avatars in the past.
Yeah, it's a design choice, right, chat? Which goes with her fucking model, by the way, which is like an island, like monkey vibe. Like, it would make sense. You ever seen Tarzan? Like, that's literally what I see when I look at this. It's like a design choice at the end of the day.
Different animals, different hair colors, different designs
Yeah, it's banana
altogether.
hair.
I worked with different artists who put their heart and soul into creating
Exactly.
something
Like, I love that you say that, Greedus. Can we read this? It's also just a part of her real life hair. It is part of her culture. So true. It literally, she has dreads IRL. She is representing herself in this model.
Bananajuju started out like this. As a VTuber, you pick a theme. Like, for instance, you are a fish VTuber. So you go aquatic. Aquatic, is that the word? My English is obviously not my my first language, so I stumble. I mispronounce a lot of words. I apologize.
Yeah, I like your freckles. They're cute.
Anyways, you pick colors, maybe use water backgrounds, you know, blah blah blah. You play into a theme. And
Your theme,
I thought,
exactly,
"Oh,
exactly."
I really like jungle. I lived in tropical regions in the world, and I have always loved nature. I'm a weirdo, a VTuber touching grass.
Oh my
So I
god.
thought this could work, you know? I used to be a kitsune in the past. Is that also culturally inappropriate to be a Japanese spirit fox? When you
This is kind of like that devil's advocate point, right? Like I said earlier, like, also all VTubers are, you know, VTubing is Japanese, right? Based off like anime. So like, are we appropriating culture by being a VTuber? You know what I mean? Like, it's a real devil's advocate argument, but like, I mean, it's a little bit of something too, right? So
are not Japanese, I wonder. Anyways, monkeys, they are smart, mischievous at the same time. They do have big ears, which is a thing.
very slippery slope argument for sure, but you know, it's fun to consider all things, you know, in this thing here. So I think that ultimately, like, you just need to be respectful. That's it. Be respectful of everybody, but don't go after people without understanding their side of it, right? That is the lesson here today. Understand people. Take the time to ask questions so that way you don't immediately jump to this. Well, this person is bad. Burn them down. To take everything that they love. Go to Twitter and call them out. It doesn't have to be that way. It can literally be a conversation and a place for understanding and respect. That is what conversations need to be. That is what communication is coming to each other respectfully and having a conversation. You say your side, I say my side, we go back and forth. Why can we not just fucking do that? It's not even that hard. But here we are, chat, spending an hour on this conversation because this is literally half of my content. The same fucking conversation over and over. This can be resolved through DMs. This could have been resolved through communication. I had a huge story chat that I was going to talk to you guys about that got sent my way. Somebody literally sent me this huge story, and I asked them a question. I said, before I cover this, did you talk to them in DMs? And they said, you know what? I haven't. I sent this straight to you. You know what? I'm going to try to reach out to them. Could you help me? I said, absolutely. I'll help you type up a letter. We got the information together. We made a letter. We sent it to them. I talked to them yesterday and they said, hey, guess what? I don't need you to come out with this information or cover it. We resolved it in DMs. That is amazing. Why can we not do that more, chat? So I do want to show you some things that did unfortunately happen, though, chat, out of this whole situation. And unfortunately, guys, people came out of the woodworks to be racist over this. And that is unacceptable. Look, whether you agree or disagree about the whole thing, that's fine. But for you to be racist towards people is not okay. And I do want to draw the line here because, you know, I think Juju is fine. I don't think that she did anything. But what I will say is that people resorting to racism just because you think you're right is not acceptable. Anyway, let's take a look here at this video made by Irlina. And I believe that she talks about this. So let's take a look.
It is not freedom of speech. You guys are just really huge bigots. I saw this VTuber who was white and had locks in their hair. And all one of my mutuals did was say, hey, is anybody else uncomfortable with this? Tell me why. There proceeded to be a huge outpour of racists filling her replies, being demeaning, saying slurs at her.
I believe that they're talking about the OP, who is this person here. And again, chat, whether you agree or disagree with what they had to say, it is unacceptable for you to be derogatory and to throw slurs around. That is literally unacceptable. I don't care whether you agree or disagree with it. They have a point here. You should not be doing that kind of stuff. And it's important that we call that out too. You know what I mean? Like, we can call it the one side of maybe people would disagree with going after Juju, but we also need to call the people that are being racist towards people over this. That kind of conduct is unacceptable.
How is it that whenever Black creatives speak out in the VTuber community, it is constantly met with racist VTuber fans?
And that's just not okay. I mean, I would argue the way that they put this, what they said on their stuff was not the way to go about it. But either way, guys, being racist over anything is unacceptable.
VTubers who should be supporting us and lifting up our voices, thus then jump ship and agree with the same people who hate us. It is so comical how
I don't want to have a bigoted fan base because what if she says something they don't agree and they turn on her? That is not up to you. Actually, that's not really up to anybody, Fox Destiny, because I see that argument a lot. People are like, oh, well, she's going to have a bigoted fan base. How do you know that? You know what I mean? Like, where are they coming from that you would define this generalization of a fan base as bigoted? What fan base are you referring to that is bigoted? You can't control a fan base, right? Like, you can't control what everybody does, right? If you don't like asmongold, here's the main thing that I see. People point out, oh, asmongold covered this. So because of that, now your fans are going to be full of grifters and bad people, right? But that you're generalizing an entire fan base, and that's unfair. You know what I mean? Like, not all people that are part of Asmon's fan base are bigoted or believe with everything he says. Maybe they're more nuanced than that. You know what I mean? We can't assume the worst all the time, which I get we do want to be fair about it, but I don't think that we can assume the worst all the time and generalize. It's okay. No. You're fine. You're fine. It's important that we talk about it, though, you know? Like, that's why we're all here. That's why we're talking about it. And again, I want to show this side of it because, again, it's really unfair to be racist over something just because you disagree or whatever it is, right?
these certain VTuber fans aren't being racist and say the nastiest of things to Black people whenever we speak up about our issues or whenever we speak up about problems with the VTubing community. And 9 times out of 10, the reason why Black VTubers are—
I'm not really sure what she's referencing, but I mean, I will agree. I've talked about this with Toledo before. He's even been here. We talked about it. That, you know, POC VTubers often get the short end of the stick. I'm actually going to skip over to something really quick here because I think this might help define things a little bit more. This comes from Honey. He says, I think the reason there's a big problem with this is because there's an undeniable racism problem in the VTuber community. I think that's why a lot of people blew this up. It's a sensitive topic, right? Within the VTuber community, I will say I've seen a lot of racism. I've seen it. People are shitty at POC VTubers, and I feel like that's why this ultimately became more of a problem than I think that it ever should have, is because there is this problem in the VTuber community. Now, we have to be able to be emotionally intelligent enough to put that aside, right? We have to be able to put some of these things aside and come from a place of understanding, which again, we should have just asked her these questions. But nonetheless, like, I'm not going to disagree. I don't think anybody in chat will disagree. They could have asked this question, you know what I mean? I very much disagree with how this was framed. You know what I mean? Like, I don't really feel like this is a question. Like, this doesn't come off as like just like a innocent question, right? Or a question to facilitate a conversation. That's how I look at that, at least. But I think this is important to point out because we need to look at the full picture of it, right? Ultimately, though, I feel like Mr. Mildly Funny also says something that is really baseline important as well. Play devil's advocate, her keep saying your theme being monkey themed while having locks is a racist dog whistle, but I personally recall jungle theming having an association with the hairstyle regardless of, you know, whatever ethnicity that you come from, right? Again, I think of Tarzan every time I think of that. Ultimately, chat, I'm going to tell you how I feel about this. Are you ready? I feel like through her explanation, through what she said, the information she gave us, she is not culturally appropriating. She is respectful. She also, of course, has dreads IRL, which I think goes a long way into the conversation as well. On top of that, she said she's a worldly traveler. She's been around. She understands our culture. She's respectful of it. I do not feel like her intentions were ill in any way, shape, or form. And I feel like this whole entire issue could have been avoided had we just asked a question for conversation in a respectful way. That could have been done behind closed doors instead of trying to frame something to farm clout. That's it. I think if you're going to say that this is a voice of concern, this could have been dealt with in a much better way. I think everybody is, well, not everybody, unfortunately, but a lot of emotionally intelligent people are willing to hear out your concerns within the community. But also, like, you have to be able to respectfully ask it. You have to be able to ask it in a way that is, in a way to develop an actual conversation, not like this. Yeah, you can tell how she talks about it. Like, again, her intentions are not negative. You can 100 tell her intention is pure. Yeah, and the whole Tarzan argument was like a big thing for a while too, which I agree with. I mean, when I first saw this, I'm like, oh, it's cute. It's like Tarzan theme, you know? I think that everybody blew this out of proportion in a way it did need to happen. But ultimately, because of this chat, now she's benefiting from it in a really good way. And she's so sweet. She deserves it, you know? I mean, but again, if you have a concern, I think there's always a way to appropriately deal with that, right? Like, if I'll tell you an instance, and I'm not going to tell you who it was, but I had somebody that was concerned about something that what I said on stream. And you know what they did? They DM'd me and they said, hey, Alar, can you clarify what you meant by that? And I said, oh, blah, 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 blah. And I told them, and they said, oh, okay, you know, I thought it was something worse, but now I understand. You're good. And that's it. It can be that simple, chat. It can be that simple. Literally. So ultimately, chat, I feel like this was just something that blew up in such a big way that didn't need to happen. And if we came from a place of understanding instead, we could have avoided this whole problem. But I mean, I really wish the best for Juju because she's absolutely exploding and she deserves it. I think she's so sweet. Again, we rated her the other day. I've talked to her a little bit. She's very, very sweet. But, you know, on the other side of things as well, guys, that's why I showed you this article. That's also why I showed you this other VTuber speaking out because, again, racism and trying to, you know, push people down and say all these horrible derogatory things from this situation is not okay either. It's not. You cannot do that kind of stuff. It's not okay. And we need to call out that bad behavior as well. Yeah, she literally like unintentionally just like blew up from all of it. So chat, what's your thoughts about this situation? Let me know. I want to hear what you all have to say about this. I just think like we took innocent intentions and twisted them in such a bad way that it didn't need to be. There was never a moment to understand stuff. And people do this far too often, chat. Happened to me. People have taken my intentions and twisted them against me, you know? Like, it happens. It's unfortunate, but it does happen. So just be respectful. Be respectful to each other. Ask questions. Seek understanding. Have a conversation. You don't have to always jump to the immediate worst case scenario. Like, if we actually try to understand each other and communicate, we could have avoided this.